Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Now a few months ago, I made a video on my channel with a similar title talking about how to directional air roll in Rocket League. Since then, you guys have asked a lot of questions in the comments, and there are some other things that I believe I missed out in that video, which is why today I'm going to be bringing you guys an updated directional air roll tutorial video. Now before I get into this, I'll be leaving timestamps to each section in the video's description. If you wish to skip to any section which you particularly need help with, you can just skip to those sections. Now I'm firstly going to cover what binds you should be using, then I'll talk about why we use directional air roll, then thirdly, how directional air roll works, and then how to actually do it, and finally I'll end it off talking about some common questions from my previous video and try to clear them up for you guys. Anyways, without further ado, let's just get straight into it. Okay, so firstly we have the binds. Whether you use air roll right or air roll left is up to your preference. I use air roll right because that is the bind that feels more naturally comfortable for me, but this might be different for you. Secondly, I just wanted to mention that recently a lot of pro players have begun learning a secondary air roll bind. Doing this gives you a very minimal advantage, and all these pro players are purely doing it because they've already mastered directional air roll and are looking for every advantage they can possibly get for pro play. Now for what your bind should be. Your bind should just be whatever remaining accessible bind you have on your controller. For me, my bind is R1/RB because that is the bind that I felt is the most comfortable and easy to press for me. But yours might be different. You just want to be sure that you bind your air roll button to something that is comfortable for you. Now, if you're still having trouble figuring out what to bind your directional air roll button to, I'll leave this website here called Liquipedia, where you can see all the different pro players' binds, including their directional air roll buttons. This might help you as it will show you some of the common buttons that the best Rocket League players use as their directional air roll bind. Now, why do we use directional air roll? Directional air roll allows you to control your car unlike you were ever able to do before. It allows you to make sharp adjustments in the air, and it makes it easier to do things like air dribble, aerial, and flip reset. The reason behind this is because without using directional air roll, it is impossible to move what direction your car is facing to the left and right and air roll your car at the same time. When using normal air roll, you can only change what position your car is in the air and not what direction your car is facing. However, using directional air roll fixes this issue as you're able to do both at the same time. Now, for the main tutorial, how it actually works. First, when learning directional air roll, it is important for you to understand that it isn't as simple as just one button makes you go left and one button makes you go right. It is a fluid motion. Now, firstly, just to get this out of the way, the best way to speed your car up while holding directional air roll is to let go of your stick and simply just boost forward. Now, to change direction, you need to hold your stick to the left while using air roll right, or if you're using air roll left, hold it to the right. While you hold your stick in that direction, hold boost while your car is facing the direction you want to go. Now, the easiest way to go to the left is to hold your stick higher up on the controller as you see on screen, and if you want to go to the right, simply hold your stick lower on the controller as seen on screen. This both applies towards air roll left and air roll right. And also a quick note of what I just said, that is not the be all and end all ways of going left and right. Those are just the simplest ways of doing it from the start. But as I said, directional air roll is a fluid motion. Now I like to compare directional air roll to learning how to walk. It is purely just based off muscle memory. Once you learn it, it will all be natural for you and you won't even need to think about it. This is a skill that you yourself will need to put time into the game to learn, and it is down to how dedicated you are to actually picking up the skill. Now, a key thing to know when practicing directional air roll is you need to focus on which way your car is facing. See, car faces to the right, I go to the right. Faces to the left, I go to the left once again. I'll do it again. I'm driving straight. Oh, I want to go to the right. Okay, I'll face my car to the right. I want to go to the left. I'll face my car to the left. Just look at my hand cam and look at what I'm doing. It is all a fluid motion, and I'm able to change the way my car is facing, purely based off muscle memory. This is why it is so important for you to train. Alright, so I've told you guys that for learning directional air roll, practice will be very important, but I haven't talked about how to practice, which I'll tell you now. For people only on PC, the best way to practice your directional air rolls is by doing rings and maps such as the ones made by Livermere, like the one I'm doing right now. If you're on Steam, you can simply access this by going into the Rocket League Steam workshop and looking up rings maps on there. However, if you only have Rocket League on Epic Games, don't worry, you can still do rings. What you need to do is to install the Bakkes Mod plugin online. If you hadn't heard of Bakkes Mod, don't worry, it's very safe, and it's a mod that pretty much the whole Rocket League community uses, such as pros and YouTubers. When you download Bakkes Mod, you need to go back on the Bakkes Mod site and install a plugin called Workshop Map Loaders. There are plenty of tutorials online on YouTube showing you how to properly install these things, but I'll leave a link to both plugins in the description so you can download them. However, for you console players who can't use workshop maps, don't worry, you can still learn it. I learned Directional Air Roll while I was on console, so it is possible. The best way to practice this is to go into any map just in training, preferably some of the bigger maps such as the Throwback Stadium, just so you get a little bit more room to fly around. And what I want you to do is just practice air rolling around the place. Just hold Directional Air Roll and try fly around the map in a circle. Just every time you load up the game, just practicing Directional Air Roll, Directional Air Roll, Directional Air Roll. As I said, it's like learning how to walk, and the more you do it, the more muscle memory you're built up. When you first start learning it, it's gonna seem like you're just helplessly flying through the air with no end goal, but trust me, if you put in the time and the effort and just keep doing it every time you're in trainings, between matches, just going to training or rings if you can, just doing Directional Air Roll, just practicing, you will pick it up eventually. Alright, just before this video ends, I just wanted to answer some commonly asked questions from the previous video. So the first question we've got is, when should you use Directional Air Roll and when should you use regular air roll? So personally, I'd say use Directional Air Roll about 85% of the time. Then I use normal air roll about 15%. I'd use traditional air roll for things just like landing the car, making saves, and precise shots that I have to make. Anything that requires any sort of precision, I'll use normal air roll for that, just because it's much easier to do. And I'll use it for 50-50s as well. Then for directional air roll, I'll use it for things like, for example, air dribbling. When I go up for aerials, sometimes I have to readjust my position in the air. I'll do that. I'll use it for when I'm doing flip resets, as it's quite difficult to get the reset without air rolling and moving your car side to side at the same time. So essentially anything aerial based that I have to like control myself in the air, I'll use directional air roll for. And then anything precision wise, I'll use normal air roll. Alright, so the next question I just wanted to answer is, when should you learn directional air roll? Now, just to make this clear, directional air roll is a more advanced skill. Before you learn directional air roll, you should be able to aerial, you should be able to air dribble, you should be able to be consistent. I think the most important thing in Rocket League is definitely consistency. So directional air roll is definitely one of those things that once you've mastered all the basic mechanics, just like shooting, being able to hit the ball hard, and you're around that Champ 2 area is when I think you should be starting to learn it. Because from Champ 2 onwards, I think is kind of like those kind of ranks where like aerial play starts to become very important, much more important than just Diamond and early Champ. So definitely make sure you're able to do all the basic mechanics before you learn this skill, because this skill is very advanced to learn, and if you can't do basic aerials, if you can't air dribble, you're not going to be able to do this. Anyway, that's it from me today. I hope you guys really enjoyed. If you did, a like and subscribe would be really appreciated. Anyways, have a good one. See you later.